about. Embarking on a career in the environmental or sustainability space was exciting, relatively new, and seemed full of opportunities. 2015 marked the year of two globally critical milestones: the successful completion of the 8 United Nations Millennium Development Goals, which was to be superseded by the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, spanning 2015-2030, and the signing of the Paris Climate Agreement, where 195 parties signed an agreement to limit global temperature increase to less than 2 degrees Celsius, preferably 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. I remember family and friends telling me how I was entering the industry at the right time, because it's the future, and I will be uniquely positioned in the job market, especially being a female in the engineering industry. Shortly after the Paris Climate Agreement was signed, and I began my career, I came across the latest update of the Planetary Boundaries, published by the Stockholm Resilience Center. The planetary boundaries are essentially a collective group of indicators to measure the risk of anthropogenic impact on 9 critical planetary processes, and once they are transgressed, they are unlikely to be reversed. The image below captures the most up-to-date science of how each boundary is performing, and it doesn't make me feel very hopeful about the direction we're headed. In addition, we're now dealing with new technologies and freshwater water consumers that didn't exist when I entered the industry, such as data centers to keep up with the growth of AI and hydrogen production facilities, both electrolysis and steam methane reformation to replace natural gas. It felt as if the world were coming together to fight a single cause in 2015, and the world felt more united than ever. However, 10 years on, the world seems to be in a dark place. Not only are we trying to combat the climate crisis, but now we are trying to combat the cost of living crisis, online misogyny, the impacts of social media on teenagers, genocide, femicide, rising race-related violence, phone thefts, increased violent crime, packed prisons, increasing immigration, the rise of the far right, inconceivable house prices, and finally, a reduction in the rate of global population increase. Personally, I don't see this last one as a huge issue, but people online seem to be pissed off that women aren't having as many kids anymore, which isn't shocking given the state of the aforementioned shit show. I recently attended a corporate debate on sustainable cities, and I left the event feeling drained and pessimistic. Why are we still using the same slide decks from 10 years ago? Why are we in rooms full of professionals in the sustainability space, still talking about how we need to meet the SDGs, and how we need more nature in cities to make them livable, or why circular economy is important? I want to stand up in the middle of the event and scream, "We fucking know all this! Go on and do something about it." I left thinking, if someone like me, someone who really cares about the environment and dedicated my career to it, feels so deflated after a discussion on sustainable cities, imagine how a layperson must feel. Many people in the UK are struggling to put food on the table and can barely afford their weekly shop, yet we expect a typical homeowner to consider installing solar panels and heat pumps? Living in a G20 country, knowing you are responsible for 77% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions, it feels like we should be pulling our weight. But it is impossible for us to unite on environmental matters when everything else is falling to shit. In the past 10 years since starting my career, the UK has been through 6 prime ministers, Brexit, a global pandemic, the Grenfell Tower tragedy, the death of a monarch, and more recently the rise of Reform UK, a far-right political party aimed at inciting hatred against minorities. It just feels wrong to go to work and talk about how important it is that we buy carbon offsets when we fly, or how we should install efficient taps in our homes to reduce our water demand. Contrary to how I felt in 2015, the climate crisis now feels like a rich person's problem. Only once basic needs are met, such as affording rent and food, avoiding race riots on the street, not being stabbed for your expensive phone, or not being attacked by an incel can we actually give a shit about the environment. But even once those basic needs are met, I would argue it's far more urgent to spend your free time protesting for equality, for a free Palestine, and against children being exploited and becoming addicted to social media.